Hi, this is Doug May in the Department of Economics at Memorial University in Newfoundland and Labrador. And this is series number 2 in a group of videos that we're going to look at the production of electricity in Quebec. But we're taking this from the Hydro-Quebec perspective. So in this particular video, we're going to look at the production, availability, and domestic use of electricity in Quebec. So let's get started. This is slightly different from the first video we had because this is the production, the total production of electricity by Hydro-Quebec. So it not only includes hydroelectric power, but it also includes some solar power and wind turbine power. But let's recall that hydroelectric production by turbines using the rivers in Quebec accounts for 94% of this total production. And as we know before, it goes up and down according to the seasons. But there is, as we show, we're looking at the period from 2022, January 2022 onwards to February 2025, there's a slight downward trend here, isn't there? So in this next slide, what we're looking at is not only production produced by Quebec, which was just what we just discussed, but we have imports. And so what we have available to us in Quebec is given to us by this green line. So the blue line is what we produce, what we have available. We have more available to us than what we produce, and that's due to imports. Okay, that's good. Now what we're going to do is look at of the total amount available to us. Remember, that's in the green here. We're going to look at, okay, how much do we need for our own use? For our own use being from the Quebec perspective. And that's given to us by the orange line, right? And again, it goes up and down. It gets cold winter in Quebec and not so cold. So there's a difference between what's available and what we need for our own use. And the difference there is what we can export to others. The next slide we're going to look at is say, okay, what we have from our own production is in blue, volume from our second slide, and what we need for our own use is in orange here. And no, it looks about the same, but generally I'm going to argue, looking from this thing, there's a growing demand for electricity. We need more electricity for our own use. And so why is that the case? Well, we've said that we've got a growing population. We may have a growing industrial base. We have the growing use of AI, and it can also be affected by climate change, right? So in any event, what we need for our own use and what's produced domestically by Hydro-Quebec, there's a deficit. There's a difference, right? And that's what I'm calling the deficit here. And look here. It looks like, you're actually producing more than you needed domestically. But it seems to be that there's a gap opening here so that Quebec can't meet its own domestic supply, doesn't meet what its domestic demand is, in short. So why would they import? Well, because the same reason a lot of people import, because the imported product is maybe cheaper than what you could do. So you look at your alternatives, for instance, where Churchill Falls, you look at that and you say, that power is a lot cheaper than we could produce it using our own rivers. We've got more of it. So when you come up with the MOU, and for a long period of time, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get availability of cheap power over a longer period of time. Not maybe cheap, but cheaper than you could produce domestically. in this second little exercise, what are the 6 takeaways? That over time, Quebec is utilizing almost all of its imports and production. This leaves very little room for net exports, which is interesting. As demand for electricity rises in Quebec, as we have seen, then Hydro-Quebec needs electricity from somewhere. Now, it can get it from other provinces, or it can get it from Quebec. Thirdly, access to domestic hydroelectric resources could become a significant problem due to climate change. That we saw from our first video, right? Solar power may provide some help. Wind power is also being used and can provide some help. But the cheaper alternative would be importing power from somewhere else. And if it weren't a cheaper priority, then why would you do it? Quebec has built new transmission lines in Maine and New York, accompanied by agreements to provide green energy and cheap green energy to those provinces. In another series, we'll look at that a little bit more from the Maine perspective, or from the New England perspective more specifically. The question which we have to ask ourselves, are Churchill Falls and Gull Island part of a low-cost, long-term solution to Hydro-Quebec's problems? Well, the answer to that must be yes. Otherwise, why would you investigate it? Because what you're trying to do, not only for your industrial base, but also particularly for your domestic base, your households, who are also your voters and the owners of Hydro-Quebec, you're trying to get them electricity as cheap as possible. And again, we'll investigate that a little bit. What does that mean in terms of price per kilowatt hour to the residents of Quebec in another video? Anyways, thanks for watching this one. And if you have any comments, get in touch with me. Thanks. Bye.